What's good, my dudes? We're back in the saddle with another YouTube banger, and today's Monday, which means it's Monday market analysis time. We're going to look at the gold card prices in Skyweaver, figure out what the hell is going on or what's not going on, give you guys some predictions, give you guys some analysis, and a bunch of other good stuff. So, I think this is a really pivotal week for Skyweaver card prices, and really the reason for that has more to do with the mint numbers than anything else. The mint numbers for last week, the the batch from last week, are officially in, and we averaged out at about 575 per card. That's down about 10% or so from the week prior, and down, yeah, a shit ton from the all-time high. If we are looking at things in terms of supply and figuring that that's going to at least have some bearing on the overall value of a gold card, then the cards from last week should be some of the most coveted. And there were some pretty good cards in that set as well. Things like Scythe and some other pretty powerful units. Um, so if let's just go through the charts one at a time, I guess. I really haven't had much of a chance to look at this, so we're gonna go through it together today. Looking at the average gold card buy price here on SkyweaverTCG.com. This is a website that I made, by the way. Lots of cool stats here, conquest stats, win rates, all kinds of goodies if you want to check it out. But yeah, if we look at the average gold card buy price, we've been hovering right around the $20 mark for quite a while. But overall, it seems like the bottom was in kind of like the middle of March, and we've been trending upward ever since. The little bit of hesitancy here at the tail end is to be expected because it's a Monday, so there was 8 new cards dumped onto the market, which is going to probably, I mean, more often than not, that drives down the average price, at least temporarily. But you can see here, if you look at the cost to buy one of each gold card on the market, we actually ticked up pretty significantly today. So even though the overall market has been spread out a little bit more, it is trending upward for sure. And actually, on that note, why don't we look at the actual market cap here? I'll pull this up for you guys. So this chart, unfortunately, doesn't go back as far as the others. That's why it looks kind of like it's in different shape. It only goes back to like middle of February. But you can see that the overall in-game market cap, Nifty Swap, whatever, this is, it's just a rough estimate. It's basically if I take the supply of each card, multiply it by the price of each card. That is going up as well. So more money coming into the market for sure. It seems to be a little bit more of a healthy incline, a healthy increase this time, as opposed to last time where there was kind of a lot of speculators coming in. This is just a slow, steady drip of new investors, which, in my opinion, is much more bullish. So back to Skyweaver TCG.com, let's take a look at some of the other graphs here. If you look at units versus spells, the difference between them was really condensing for a little while, especially when everything was selling off. But now that the market's kind of pumping a little bit, not pumping, but just, starting to look a bit positive again, we do see the gap growing. And it makes sense. The more you think about the difference in value between units and spells, the more it does make sense. Just because the way Skyweaver's set up with attachments on basically every unit, a unit is kind of 2 cards in one, whereas a spell isn't. So that has, some cosmetic relevance, but it also just has some like card value relevance in terms of actual gameplay. So yeah, maybe this is a permanent thing here, this gap. It'll be interesting to see how animations affect this. Maybe it's still a long ways off, maybe a year or so down the road. But whenever they do finally add animations to the gold cards, I do think that it has the potential to benefit spells more than units. Um, if only because spells might be easier to animate. That being said, units at least stick on the board so you can admire the animation more. It's also probably easier to give them voice lines or something. So, yeah, I could be totally wrong about that, but who knows? Maybe animations affect this divide. If we look at high mana versus low mana, you can see that the high mana cards are definitely more volatile, but the trend doesn't seem to be as strong as units versus spells. The correlation, I should say, between the high mana, low mana. If we look at price by set, sure enough, we have set 5, which is one of the really low minted sets. This is the set with Mutichi. That set taking off like a rocket again, while everything else is going up, but maybe just not quite as steeply. I think one of the things that this tends to indicate is that there's new blood coming into the market. When a new guy comes in, wants to invest in Skyweaver, he doesn't know what cards are good in terms of gameplay. All he can see is the supply numbers. He's going to buy based on that, and that's going to probably pump set 5. So that's probably one of the reasons why set 5 tends to do this. Whenever the market goes up, set 5 still goes up the fastest. Yeah, the difference between price by prism really just non-existent. It's funny here if you look very closely at the chart. I don't know if you guys can see this, but wisdom has trailed off a lot of late just because I think, a lot of people feel like wisdom is really weak right now and it's gotten some pretty big nerfs. So that might be the reason for that. But overall, I do expect this chart to condense more as more gold cards are minted. Every week there are new cards that come out, and I imagine over time that will average out the differences. And that seems to be the case here. I do think that as the card prices grow, then there's more room to see the differences. But as of now, price by prism, not really relevant. Same thing with price by element. I won't even go into that because, yeah, basically everything I said about price by prism applies to price by element. Price by supply, there's a lot of new cards here that have entered this like 600, 500 mint territory as the result of last week. And a lot of them are available for pretty low prices. If we look at a slightly bigger version of this, you can see how there's a lot of dips here at the lower end of the supply. And a lot of these are obviously from last week's set. So if you're looking to buy some cards, I don't think you can go wrong with buying a few from last week's set. I know I will be buying some today just because there's a couple that I missed out on. I wasn't able to mint them in Conquest, and I do want them for my collection. So I'll be buying some of those today for sure. And yeah, top 15 cards by Nifty Swap market cap. Motichi's still the king. Surprisingly, Nakamoto holding strong. How much longer he can be the right-hand man here, I don't know. I don't think it can be much. Well, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it's forever. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see Nakamoto slip sooner rather than later. Furonis has definitely slipped a lot just because he has such a high mint number. People are reluctant to buy him, and Manglong completely off the list now. We'll see if he pops back in. I'm a believer in Manglong. I own a few copies, so I think it's a strong card, and he's just cool. So we'll see if he makes it back into the top 15. Sad to see him go. Mint numbers by set. Yeah, we already kind of talked about this, but if you really want to think about it, we haven't had mint numbers as low as last week. Since set 6. So we're getting really close to set 5 territory. Mutichi's crown for the lowest mint card, it is being threatened a little bit. It'll be really interesting to watch this week's mint numbers and see how low they can go. I personally am hoping that the mint numbers maybe tick up a little bit. I think it would be a good sign for the health of Conquest. At these low mint numbers, it really does make you start to wonder how many people are playing Conquest. And actually, since we're asking the question, why don't we go in and look at this graph that shows all of the daily Conquest players. And you can really see how over the past day, the number has ticked up a lot. This red line is the number of unique IP addresses playing the game every day. And yeah, we've gone up from 500 to 700. Wow, just in one day apparently. So super big percentage bump. And I think a lot of that it's due to the fact that the card prices are now, you know, they're above $10. And so a lot of people are more eager to grind. Anything else I want to say about that? I guess it's, I think a lot of people fail to realize just how effective this mechanism is, this minting, the way that they've decided to design the way they've designed the economy, where if fewer people are playing conquest, well, then the mint numbers go down and the cards get more valuable, and so more people play conquest. It's kind of a virtuous cycle, or maybe more of a virtuous balance, but either way, it does seem to be taking effect, at least over the last week. So if this little trend here is any indication, I would expect this week's mint numbers to go up from last week, but definitely not guaranteed. So yeah, cards for this week include Fire Noble, which is, I think, it's definitely in the top 5 highest win rate cards for Wisdom and Discovery. So this might be the most valuable, and in fact, I think it most certainly will be. Although Frank is more expensive, so he could be a contender. It'll ultimately depend on how many are minted, probably. In terms of spells, I like Ari's Insight. I think this is a cool spell to have in gold. Also, I like all the runes in gold. I think that's something cool to have. So these two are my favorites, but Ari's Insight's going to take the crown there. So yeah, Fire Noble and Ari's Insight, probably the two that I'm looking forward to the most. Of course, as a Samya player, I wouldn't mind having a cookbook either. And B Unit, if we're talking about aesthetics, I think B Unit maybe looks the coolest in gold out of all of these. So anyway, guys, I hope you found that useful. Be sure to hit the like button if you liked. Hit subscribe if you haven't done that already. Every Monday, I do a market analysis, so stay tuned for those. Yeah, check out skyweavertcg.com, and I keep this updated every day, so I guess that's going to be it. Thanks, guys, and until next time, peace out.